How do you do, fellow kids? As a young adult myself in my early 20s. All right, I could not resist. Anyway, in this video, we're going to look at the best credit cards for young adults, people in their early to mid 20s who are maybe just getting your first credit cards, maybe your first one ever, maybe you have no credit history, maybe you've got a little bit of credit history, maybe some student loans or some other car loan or something like that. So we're going to look at 3 cards in particular, what order you might get those cards in, and then talk about some other cards that you might choose instead, or maybe you would sort of fill in afterwards. We're going to do it all. Now, obviously, I can't make assumptions about every young adult out there, every 20-something out there, but one commonality that many people have when they are in their early 20s, maybe they are still in their parents' house, maybe they're just getting out of their parents' house for the first time, but your big spending patterns are going to be things like food in particular, shelter, maybe. Also, if you have a car, you might have gas being one of the things that you are worried about. So oftentimes, if you are looking for a credit card, you are going to want something that is going to give you some rewards on those purchases where you are actually spending the most money, and then obviously something that is going to be okay on any other purchases that don't fall into those buckets. Now, if you're completely new to credit as a young adult, there's a good chance that Discover has shown up in your mailbox offering you a credit card as your first credit card. They're pretty aggressive about doing this. Many people start out with Discover, and Discover is just fine. Their Discover It card is a decent card. However, if it were me, I would probably take the bull by the horns and instead go to Capital One and go after the Capital One Quicksilver card. No annual fee, 1.5% cash back on everything that you buy with the card. There's a bonus opportunity of $200 if you spend $500 in the first 3 months as a new card holder. Now, Capital One does have a couple sort of watered down versions of the Quicksilver as well. So if you go after the card that I just talked about, it's possible they might say, well, we're not going to give you that one, but we would give you that one, but take away the bonus opportunity. Or they might say, if you have had credit problems in the past is when this usually happens, or if your income is not high enough for their liking, they could offer you the Quicksilver One that has a $39 annual fee. So there's sort of 3 flavors of the Quicksilver, but I think the Quicksilver is a good place to start. Now, I bring up the Capital One Quicksilver first, but if you are someone that has a little bit of credit history under your belt, maybe you've had a car loan, maybe you're starting to pay on a student loan, or you have some other credit history, your first credit card could potentially be the Chase Freedom Unlimited, and that is a place that I would say maybe you should try first. It is a card that is somewhat similar to the Capital One Quicksilver with 1.5% cash back on everything, except you also have 3% back on dining purchases, 3% back on drugstore purchases, 5% back on travel when you book it through Chase's Ultimate Rewards portal. And then down the road, a lot of people like to get multiple Chase cards, especially if they want to really get into travel rewards. So sometimes getting the Chase Freedom Unlimited is a good place to start. Chase usually wants to see a little bit of credit history before they will approve you, though some people manage to get it without a credit history, but mostly you're going to need some credit history to get the Chase Freedom Unlimited. And if you have any familiarity with the credit card market, you might know that there are some cards out there that are 2% cashback credit cards, which obviously is more than 1.5%, but those might be harder for you to get as a first credit card unless you do have some credit history. But things like the Citi Double Cash, the Wells Fargo Active Cash, maybe the Synchrony 2% MasterCard would be something that would be open to people that don't have much credit history. Usually those cards are going to want to see a little more credit history though, so that is why I start with the other cards, because they're more likely to be something you can get your hands on. Now, if you have taken my advice on that first card, or maybe you already have your first card, the next one I would say you should go after is the Capital One Saver One card, no annual fee cashback card, giving 3% back on grocery purchases, 3% back on dining, 3% back on entertainment purchases, 3% back on most streaming services, 1% everywhere else. So if you couple that with either the Capital One Quicksilver that I already talked about, or one of the other cards that has sort of a flat cashback in the 1.5 to 2% area, well, then you're going to have a pretty good cash back on most of your purchases, and you're going to be getting at least 3% on some of those big categories, the grocery and dining purchases in particular. Now, if you have those 2 cards and you've been doing everything right with them, using them for a while and building up that credit score, the third card I would say to go for is the Citi Custom Cash Card, no annual fee card that gives 5% cash back in the category where you spend the most each month. They do this automatically. There are purchases purchasing categories that Citi already has a list of. Everyday categories like restaurants, gas stations, select travel, grocery stores. I think home improvement is one of them, and there are some others as well. For this video, I'm thinking of gas as that place where you really would maybe use this card to target your spending there. Now you get that 5% on up to $500, and then anything after that, you're gonna get 1% on those purchases. Any other purchases you make with the card, gonna get you 1%. But if you look at sort of a 3-card lineup of what I have just talked about, your big categories are all gonna be getting you at least 3%. You can get yourself 3% at restaurants, 3% on groceries, 3% on gas purchases, and then anything else that you buy, you could use either a 1.5% or 2% cashback card to sort of, fill in the blanks where you couldn't get at least 3%. So that is a pretty good way to go if you are in your 20s and you don't really want to go too far down the road yet with your credit cards. Maybe you don't spend a ton on your credit cards and you're trying to figure it out. That's a good place to start. Now for some young adults, after getting that first credit card, they might decide to go off in a different direction, especially if you want travel rewards, but your spending as of now is still sort of those big categories, the everyday categories that I talked about. The American Express Gold card is popular with many people. It is a card that gives you points in the American Express membership rewards program. You get 4 points per dollar at US grocery stores, and there is a limit, so make sure you check that out. There's 4 points per dollar at restaurants worldwide. There's 3 points per dollar on travel purchases, 1 point per dollar everywhere else. You've got a up to $120 Uber credit. It gets chopped up month by month, so if you use Uber regularly, that is how you're going to be able to maximize it. Same thing with the up to $120 dining credit that you can use $10 per month at a slate of certain restaurants and delivery services that you would get credit for. So this card has a lot of things going on, and you can earn some really nice rewards. However, it does have a $250 annual fee, so you have to make sure that you are somebody that is going to max out your rewards in terms of putting a good amount onto the card and using all of those credits. For some people, if you want to pay attention a lot to your credit card and you want to figure out the best ways to redeem American Express points and all that kind of stuff, you're really kind of into it, well, then this is a card that maybe you would choose next. For a lot of people, if you don't want to think too much about your credit cards and you don't want to pay a $250 annual fee and then think about whether you're maximizing that fee or not, well, then maybe this would not be the way to go, but a lot of people love it. And then finally, I'll give a shout out to the Bilt Rewards MasterCard. I said at the beginning of this video, if you're a young adult in your early 20s, mid 20s, one of the things that might be a big part of your expenses is shelter. You might be paying rent for the first time, or maybe you've been paying rent for a while, and you might know that most landlords are not going to let you pay by credit card. However, the Bilt Rewards MasterCard gets around this, number one, by having some relationships with some of the biggest landlords out there in the country, and then number two, by acting sort of as a middleman where you pay them with the credit card and they pay your landlord, and then you have to pay them back essentially. So you can earn some points on your rent payments with the Bilt Rewards MasterCard where you would not necessarily be able to get any credit card rewards normally on those rent payments. Now the card overall, I'm somewhat lukewarm about, but if my rent payments were very high every month, it's something that maybe I would consider. The everyday earnings that you're going to get elsewhere with this card, not bad, not great. It's the redemptions that I'm not quite as high on. If you wanted to have travel in particular as a reward, this is a card that might appeal to you because they have relationships with American Airlines, with United, with Hyatt, and with other hotel and airline companies out there where maybe you could transfer your points into their loyalty programs and get value there. Depends on what you want, but you can't cash out at a decent rate with the Bilt MasterCard. So if that's something you want to do, that would make it less appealing. But again, if you have a high rent, definitely something I would take a look at. All right, fellow kids, that is the way that I see it. If you have any questions or comments, put those in the comments section below. If you are someone that is in your 20s or in your 30s and you look back at the credit card path you took, I would love to hear what you did and how you feel about it. Was the right way to go? Would you do it differently? If you had to do it over again, would love to hear about that. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and as always, please go to proudmoney.com where we do credit card reviews, we talk personal finance, we talk deals, and all sorts of other fun stuff too. If you're not going to comment or you're not going to go to the website, watch this video.